because people don't want to buy products. They want to buy solutions and services that generate what they want. And when AI can aggregate the inputs and the outputs, right? Your ability to sell a standalone product and brand, especially in the market, that's not what people want to buy. They don't want to buy standalone products and brands, even if you're a little faster, a little cheaper, a little cooler. That's not where the pragmatism is these days.
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and the wisdom of how they sold their first million.
So, Scott, what is the biggest challenge that you have with entrepreneurs, a second-time founder, that supposedly coming with that ego? I have my product; it's gonna be the better in the market. We have this thing that first-time founders, they are in love with the product. They put so much time, energy, and effort in the product, and having a good product is not enough. It's only, in my experience, 15% of the equation. Law comes into the equation, and sometimes the founder is the biggest barrier. Despite, I saw so many founders that with excellent pros that never get no product market fit. They don't even get to $250,000, and we don't, and they still don't understand why. And then they go and find you as an angel investor. Okay, Scott, give me funding, give me some money. We're gonna sell this product. And you're looking at the entrepreneur and say, well, you're not ready yet, my friend. So when in your life you realize that ego that we have as entrepreneur, that we needed to start this journey, that give us the courage to do it, somehow is our main enemy if we don't know how to handle it effectively.
So ego, and I would say it cuts both ways. Too much of it or too little of it. And I said earlier, neither a cynic nor an optimist be. Try to find that groove in the middle, positive pragmatism. And I'm going to also stand by the first 5 suggestions I gave you, right? When you got the right ego, that's got humble confidence, but knows that they don't know everything, and they need help. And because cash flow and capital and their balance sheet probably doesn't allow them to hire a bunch of people, that's why there's good frameworks and good models. You just said the 1-3-1, which is what I've been doing for 3 decades. When somebody's got an issue and they're freaking out, and by the way, this includes you or others, right? Okay, time out. Figure out what is the one issue, challenge, opportunity, and summarize it. This is where AI comes in really handle. Come up with 3 solutions, 3 scenarios, and present those to me. And then together we'll figure out what's the best one way to take. And not only do we take it intellectually, but we're going to check our egos and say, okay, how do we measure, right? You've heard the acronym SMART. Is it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound? Right? How do we trust but verify that it's getting done? So I think ego is a big thing, and then obviously what I call the balance of EQ and IQ, because I see a lot of really smart people, especially in tech, high IQs but lower EQs. So one of our frameworks inside of the Boss Up Coaching Solution and Academy is a framework called CLEAR. And when you're debating and dialogue and meeting, and you've got other people, including yourself, you always want to be as clear as possible. Right? And to do that, you pursue that word, but it's also an acronym. And that acronym stands for collaborative, logical, empathetic, authentic, and resilient. And if you play by those ground rules with yourself and others, chances are your confidence on your decisions, your courteous way of, let's just use the word, enforcing standards and principles and values is set, right? So we know what the definition of done is and how it works, right? And again, I would call that a blend of IQ and EQ. And if you've got that ego, find that. I call it the harmony. I don't like this concept of work-life balance. I think that's rubbish. It's hard. But harmony means that sometimes you got good seasons and bad. Sometimes this is high, this is low, right? So that's my answer. I think ego is absolutely a good asset, but you got to find that line between too much or too little. And I'm a flawed human being.
100%.
I make a lot of mistakes. I can't trust my DNA, and that's why I look to systems and frameworks and good guardrails. So I'm complemented and enhanced, not deterred, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Become a millionaire in tech is easy. Out of the 500 millionaires that we interview in this podcast, one out of five are tech millionaires. They have exits successfully the companies. But people listening this podcast might have scored like the Rana culture, like, okay, it doesn't matter what we say here. People are listening and say, wow, if one out of five millionaires entrepreneurs that come to Harry's podcast, they do tech and their exit successfully, that means that become a millionaire in tech is easy and it's easy to get product market fit. Can you tell us, Scott, the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a tech entrepreneur? Because of course, people come to a podcast and we only hear the positive stories,
No.
but we
I was
know how hard it is to get product market fit. How hard? No, a lot of work it takes to get product market fit, especially in tech. So tell us the good, the bad, as an investor, the good, the bad, and the ugly of tech businesses so we can give a reality check to our listeners.
So I started my first internet company back in 1995. I
Oh, wow,
raised
that's
million in
amazing.
venture capital, hired a
Oh,
bunch of
wow,
people to
Scott,
kick
that's very
in.
impressive.
Yeah,
So you,
well, it's not
this
so
is
much
right.
because,
So the
well,
question is piece of cake for you then.
but no, well, but it failed. It did not go according to plan. I did not become a unicorn. We did not IPO. And I think it goes to I didn't know then what I know now, which is those first five things I said. We didn't have good systems. We didn't have the right people in the right seats. We didn't blend ego to IQ. We didn't know what our product market fit was. We didn't understand some of the math, right? We had the energy. We got caught up in that whole .com vim and vigor, right? So I would say by the way, I've worked with a lot
Clearly, it
of,
was on traction. Clearly, the product have some traction because you managed
well,
to raise that
we
amount
had
of money.
traction.
So,
We had good
like,
traction
yeah.
on losing a lot of money every month, which was back in the day, right? I was making a lot of money. Then I, believe it or not, went about 6 months losing about $500,000 a month because we raised that money. But I just want to be clear. I think this applies to not just tech. And because of AI today, I'd be very careful on back to ego to IQ, right? Because of AI, that classic model of Scrum, Agile, build, MVP, what have you. AI's throwing that whole thing for a loop. And so I'd argue, irrespective of tech or whether you're a plumber or construction or in retail, right? What gets you into trouble is, again, not doing what we said earlier, the five principles we've already
I
talked
agree
about.
100%.
But
Yeah.
in tech in particular, to your point, you got to be even more careful today because the capital is out there, but it's very suspect today. The term dry powder, there's more dry powder in the universe than ever. There's this whole wealth tsunami. And yet at the same time, because of AI, both good and bad, there's a lot of hesitancy to overinvest. So the first thing is to tech and to regular companies, be focused on the common good old fashioned goals of cash flow, making money, paying the bills. Because I'm telling you, the venture capital's coming in, they're saying, hey, there might be a couple of investments that are theoretical, pie in the sky, but they do want to see some degree of traction. They want to
100%.
see the pipeline. They want to see utilization, right? So again, get these little unicorn visions out of your dreams. Be a
Yeah.
realist and run a good business that understands proper
Yep.
economics, structure, systems, right? So that's
Yeah.
my advice, especially in tech. Tech more
Yeah.
than ever today. Be very careful.
What happened with the formula? Why that formula gets missing translation?
Well, look at it two perspectives. I do venture capital. I've invested in a dozen companies now. I got to be candid. I stopped investing because a lot of what you're implying in this conversation, my frustration with investing and then the founders not living up to what I thought was the deal. And that was that they're going to build a company. One of the core objectives for SaaS companies is what's called the rule of 40, right? We want to generate 40% EBITDA. And certainly you're not going to do that overnight. There's a journey. You need to explain the process, the path, the production of the technology, the marketing, the sales, the operations. And this is where I think most of these people get caught up in the result. And you don't result into results, Harry. You process, you plan, you execute through what we call the essential concepts, tools, and disciplines. So I tell you, even in the last 6 months, the world's changed. In fact, for all my friendly venture capital people out there, their sector is going through almost a a major shakeup, right? Because their quote unquote formulas and rules are being challenged in many ways. In fact, I'd say it's really private equity, family offices, and venture capital, which means if you look at those three different sectors, family offices and private equity, they like cash flow. They like what we call going concerns versus concerns going, because these companies have proven, you ready? I just said it, that they're companies. They're not just startups. They're not just product, that in itself. So to the entrepreneurs,
100%.
here's what I'd say. After about 5 minutes of listening to you, I'm done. Good luck. Have a nice life. I'm just being honest for everybody out there right now. You go to a VC and say, "Hey, I've got this unicorn," or I'm going to tell you about, the letter M, and I don't know how to do A, B, and C. You're toast. And to those VCs that are
With
out
no
there,
sales, with no sales,
it's just not the world anymore. Those days are done. And so,
exactly. I
maybe
agree
if
with you
somebody,
100%.
maybe if so, I'm trying to be your Uncle Scott here, everybody.
Mhm.
I want to encourage you to
No,
build,
but
run, and grow,
we want them
but
to succeed. So
and
that's
one of
how
the
the
one of
world
the
is today. Why
big
we won't
concepts of the
be?
world, one of the big concepts of the world today is entrepreneurship by acquisition. And this is where I go back and say, hey, implement tech into a construction company. Take your energy and that entrepreneurial vim and vigor and spirit. And yeah, I get tech historically has been seen as sexy and cool, and you become a unicorn, and that could happen, right? Even blind squirrels find acorns, and some people win the lottery. But back to positive pragmatism, that's probably not the case. So I go back to what we said earlier: the 5 principles, ego to IQ. And so the VCs are not as silly as they used to be. I think they're a lot more grounded, and they've been beaten
Absolutely,
down. And I think the
absolutely.
founders in tech
Mhm.
have got to be more realistic and realize that it's not just about tech. And that's the biggest thing about AI. What AI is doing, and I spent a lot of my life with AI. Everybody hear me up right now. AI is commoditizing all tech. One more time. AI is commoditizing all tech. So when you have to think that you've got the specialized product, service, database application, when AI comes in and it basically aggregates back to machine learning and everything that it's doing, you become much less relevant and much less important as a point product, because people don't want to buy products. They want to buy solutions and services that generate what they want. And when AI can aggregate the inputs and the outputs, right? Your ability to sell a standalone product and brand, especially in the market, that's not what people want to buy. They don't want to buy standalone products and brands. Even if you're a little faster, a little cheaper, a little cooler, that's not where the pragmatism is these days.
Follow us for more interviews with the world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.